extinguisher is located right here beside the door, so if you have to use this, all you have to do is pull this black strap, and then of course you have to pull this pin out in order to operate it. Light switches. First switch operates the ceiling light right above the couch. Second switch operates your porch light right here beside the door on the outside of the unit. Right here we have the 25-foot hose, 25-foot drinking hose that we was talking about earlier. This is your 45-50 pound water regulator. This always goes on the spigot, not on the trailer, so that it doesn't hang off the side of the unit. These are the links levelers that we was discussing. These, like I said earlier, they go underneath your tires to bring it up. They are 1 inch thick, so you can come up 1 inch at a time, and if you need to come up 2 inches, of course you can see you can just stack them together and you can come up 2 inches. This is your 10-foot sewer hose. Sometimes 10 foot ain't quite enough, so you want to try to get as close as you can to the dump site. This is the end that goes onto the sewer outlet on the trailer. This just twist locks on there like the sewer cap does, and then you drop this one down into the holding tank. Air conditioner. This is your controls for your air conditioner right here. Of course, here it's in the off position. Whenever you first turn it on, it's going to be on fan. When you switch it to cool, you always want to switch it on high first. That way it's got a good 110 volts going up to the motor whenever it first kicks in. And after it's been running for a little while, then of course you can turn it down on the low. This is your temperature adjustments right here. Of course, with the blue all the way down is all the way up. Of course, right here, this switch is for the electric side of the hot water heater. If you wanted to run it on electric, of course you have to make sure that the gas is off outside and the other switch is already on, so all you have to do is turn this switch on in order to run it on electric. Now, of course, like we said earlier, you do not want to run this while the air conditioner is running because it will draw too much amperage and it might burn the cord up. This is our monitor panel. This is what tells you how full your tanks are. Right now the fresh water tank has a third in it, black has a third in it, and gray is empty. Now usually the black tank is going to read some in it just because it has a bunch of stuff caked up on the sensors. This switch right here is lit up red, and this has got a pump right here beside it. This is for the water pump to pull the water out of the fresh water tank. If you're hooked up to city water, you do not need this switch on. If you're trying to pull water out of the tank and you're dry camping, of course you want to turn that switch on in order to supply your trailer with water. Of course, right now we are running off of the water pump. Light above your stove, exhaust fan. On all your top burners, you do have a striker right here. You turn your burner on and then turn this striker to the right in order for that to kick your flame on. Same thing with the other ones on the top. Now, of course, it doesn't work for the burner on the stove. If you want to use the stove, of course, you have to manually light the pilot light on the oven. I gotta find my lighter again. Oh, there it is. Okay, if you want to light the pilot light on the oven, right here you're going to turn this knob to pilot on. You're going to press it in and hold it in just like on the hot water heater. And then the pilot light is about 3/4 of the way to the back of this thing. And you want to make sure that you hold that button down while you're trying to light it. Once it lights, again, you want to hold that button down about 10 or 15 seconds to heat the thermocoupler up. And if it doesn't go out when you let off the button, then you can turn it to where you want to set the oven at, and it will fire your burner tube up. If you don't want to have to relight the pilot light, you just turn it back to pilot on, and the pilot light will stay lit. And whenever you're ready for it to go off, you turn it all the way over to off. And again, you never want to travel with the pilot lights lit. This is your refrigerator. This is gas or electric. Right now it's on auto, so as long as it's plugged in, it's going to pull from the electric side. As soon as you lose power, as long as the battery's hooked up and the propane is on, it'll automatically change over to gas. Now if you wanted to run it strictly on gas, this button right here, you press it to where it's sticking out, the lights go off, probably about 15 seconds or so. You might hear the refrigerator clicking, That's the little changeover in the back of it, switching it over to gas. Of course, auto is the best place to run it. This is the main on and off switch for this. Whenever you want to turn it completely off, just press that button where it's sticking out. Your lights go off. It shuts the refrigerator down. Now, in that time period, you want to make sure that you leave these doors open. That way the moisture can escape out of there and it doesn't get no mold or anything built up inside the box. And we're going to turn that back on. Carbon monoxide detector. You have your test button right here. Press it and hold it. And it's going to change the numbers right here. In just a minute it'll start beeping at us, and then it's going to reset itself. And the numbers will go back to 0. Smoke detector, same thing. Press and hold that down and it will go off. These are both operated by battery. This has a 9-volt battery in it, and this one has 3 AA batteries in it. So if they happen to start beeping at you every now and then, it's getting time to change the batteries out. LP gas detector. That's what this little deal is right here on the below the stove. Now, there are numbers of things that will make this thing go off. If you're in here with any kind of aerosol cans, if you're in here mopping the floor with a really strong chemical or something and it smells it will start going off. If you happen to put a bowl of dog food on the floor in front of this thing, it will start going off. Now, there is a mute button on it right here. You press that button whenever it's going off, if you've made it go off, and that will shut it up for a short period of time. And whenever it resets, if it still smells whatever it smelled the first time, it's going to start going off again. Now, of course, if you're not in here doing anything like that and it starts going off, of course, you more than likely have a propane leak. You want to go outside, turn your propane bottles off, open the trailer up and let this thing air out for a while, and then you're going to want to bring it in so we can check it out. TV antenna. This handle right here is what cranks your antenna up. Now, it is just a plastic gear that runs it up and down. Whenever the handle stops, you want to stop. You don't want to over crank this and strip it out. Once you get it up, you can pull down on this part and you can rotate the antenna to pick up better reception. Before you crank it back down, you want to make sure that these 2 ears right here line up on this. That way it lays down on the roof in the right spot. And when you go to crank it back down, you just turn it back the opposite direction, crank it down till you hear it touch the roof, and the handle will stop whenever it's all the way down. You never want to drive with this up. If you drive with that up, it's going to tear a big hole in the top of the unit. TV antenna power booster button. This little black button right there is the power booster button for the antenna. If that little green light's not on, that means you will not pick up any reception from the antenna at all. There is a 12-volt outlet right there. So it's just like a cigarette lighter in your car. So if you have one of them little TVs that plug into a cigarette lighter, you can plug it in right there. Or one of them cell phone chargers you can tie in right there as well. This is the thermostat control for your furnace. This top switch right here is the main on and off switch. Right now it's all the way over to the right into the off position. If you flip it over to the left, that puts power to it. And then you have your thermostat control right here for your temperature. You crank this over to about where you want to set it at. The furnace comes on. It takes about 25 seconds before it actually lights, and then you'll start smelling it and you'll feel the heat coming out of your vents that are close to the floor, which are these little round vents right here. This is the intake for the furnace. You never want to block this off whenever you're running the furnace, because this is where it's drawing all its fresh air from. Now, once it fires up, after you've ran it, you turn it back off. It's still running. It's going to stay running for approximately 2 minutes because it's got to go through a little purge process and make sure that it cools the box back down and blows any kind of excess gas outside of the unit. That way nobody inside can smell it.